Hello? Hello? Oh, that was weird. I don't know what happened last video. Something must have cut out. But, anyways, welcome back. I guess this will be part 2 of the discussion of the movie, The Batman. And I'll shine some light on stuff I didn't talk about last video. If you care for that stuff and you haven't seen the video, go check it out. Alright, last video we talked about Pattinson's Batman and the storyline of the film going into it. If you care for that and my thoughts for it, go check it out. The Batman film discussion and thoughts. It's already up on my channel. This will be a part 2 to that film, to that video. Last video I did fanboy over a little bit about a movie that's not even released yet, but yeah, I have high hopes for it. And I think it's going to do phenomenal. I think it's going to be phenomenal. But this video, I'm going to shine light on stuff that I didn't in last video. Talking about other things I didn't talk about, like the characters, the Batcave, and Batmobile. And now that I'm recording this video, some new stuff has been revealed also, so I'll bring that up as well. Say you've watched that video and now you're going into this one. Last we talked about the Batman, and now we're going to talk more about his equipment, more of what makes Batman Batman. We'll start with the Batmobile, which I think I don't have the Arkham Batmobile on. I'm pretty sure I still have the 66 one on. I forgot to change it, but let's find out. There she is. Where is it going? Sorry, dude. Good night. Alright, where was I? The Batmobile. The Batmobile in this film was revealed to us pretty early on. It was about a year or two ago. I'll put the photos on the screen right now of the first time we ever saw the Batmobile for this movie. Like with these pictures. Of course with the marketing's red tint. It looked pretty good. This was one of the only things that I really were iffy about, because it's the Batmobile. Now it's going on me, it's going on everyone, I feel like. And it looks pretty damn good, especially after the trailers. It's this film's Batmobile, which makes it special. And this Batman's Batmobile, if that makes sense. The only thing that I was iffy about with this Batmobile was that I thought it would have more flair. It would feel more like the Batmobile. Like past Batmobiles we've gotten in live action was like Michael Keaton's Batmobile. It looked like a Batmobile. It had the wings. It was all black. Yeah, this is all black. It has the boost on the back of it, just like this Batmobile actually. Damn. As you can see. But this Batmobile is a muscle car, and obviously Batman is in the second year, like I said before. So, of course, the Batmobile is still going to be a work in progress. He's still going to be making changes to it here and there, and it's kind of a makeshift car. I like when the Batmobile is fully just a car with loads of technology and other things that make it the Batmobile. I really don't like when it's a tank. The Arkham games did it pretty well, even though it does have a lot of usage when it comes to combat and weaponry in this game. But I really do like when the Batmobile is just a car with tech and other gadgets and stuff stored into it. I don't really like when it's a tank. So I'm glad they went in that direction, and I think they're going to continue that if they make changes to it. I still do think it looks good, and it's going to be fire. Obviously we know it can take hits from the clips and trailers we've seen. Like that scene where Batman's chasing Penguin. He literally goes full throttle into a ring of fire, and he can take hits. He's taking hits from other cars and trucks while chasing Cobblepot. So I think it's going to be good. Alright, well now that we talked about Batman, let's get into his duo partner for this movie that will help him physically, emotionally, and mentally. Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, played by Zoe Kravitz. She looks really good in this role, physically and acting wise, she looks like she's gonna kill it. And I have high hopes. I've been involved in everything this movie has to offer. I'm into everything this movie has to offer. My expectations are through the roof, and I think they're gonna still exceed it. But Catwoman, the cat burglar that we know as Selena Kyle, will be a big part of this movie. The director has come out and said that this movie is not only a Batman movie, but it's also going to be a Catwoman movie. And it's not just involving Catwoman to be in Gotham just so she could exist or be as one of the characters, but she actually has a pivotal role in this. And I think that Catwoman in this film is going to be what makes Batman not break. Catwoman in this film is going to help Bruce in many ways, more than one. I think she's going to help Bruce mentally, physically, and emotionally. Whether he likes it or not, Bruce needs help in this film. He's going to need help. Not just physically fighting off against the Riddler and all these gangsters that he's going to be coming across, but he does need help. He needs emotional support in this film. Like we said, he's not in the best place. Obviously, Batman's always suffering, and he's always in this headspace of darkness. But this, like we know, Pattinson's Bruce is having like a breakdown. He needs help. He's not going to want to admit it, and we're going to see that. But he's going to need help, and Selena knows this, and she's going to be there for him when he needs it. It's an iconic thing having Bruce having a relationship with what he swore to fight against, which is why it's always special. Besides just the characters being Batman and Catwoman, that alone is iconic. Her design is pretty good. I think the casting is great. Her design is pretty nice. I think we all expected, black leather. They're going with a more motorcyclist look with her, with the black leather bodysuit, which I think they should keep for these movies. We don't know how much we're going to see of her in these films. Like, again, they're making a trilogy out of it, and they're already in talks for a sequel, which I hope does eventually release. But her design is really, really nice. Her design is awesome. The Catwoman has this like balaclava or a ski mask type mask. It's like cut in half, and past her nose you could see her jawline, and you could see the rest of her face going downwards, which is pretty interesting. This clip right here, I'll put screenshots up right now, but it's Catwoman breaking into the safe that we've seen. The first time we saw Catwoman in the trailer was this scene, and they released like a 30-second clip of it, and I love it because if you haven't watched it, Batman shows up behind her, and you could see him actually grapple down, and you could see him releasing the grapple. You could see him release the grapple hook from wherever he grappled onto to get down, and it looks awesome. And then Catwoman notices, they start fighting off, and that is probably where we see them meet first. I think Kravitz does know the character too, which is pretty good. She's making it out more than just to be, like a femme fatale character. More than just a romantic and badass female character. Which is good, because she's making it special. That was sick. Alright, let's move on. Let's talk about some other things. Alright, next we will be talking about the Enigma. The cryptic killer, the Riddler. And if anyone knows this thing I'm standing right next to that has played these games, you already know where I'm at. We're at Pinckney Orphanage, which is basically Riddler's hideout in this game. And it's pretty fitting to talk about him while we're here. And the way this building looks just looks like how the Riddler is shaping out to be in this film. Very cryptic and creepy, as it seems. Well, the Riddler in this is played by Paul Dano, and I could not be more excited for this. I love the Riddler so much in and out of comics and games and Batman media overall. Most of my favorite villains ever is from the Batman Rogues. But the Riddler in this is, like we know, he's very cryptic, and he's very intelligent like every other Riddler there is. But the Riddler is very cryptic, and he means to send a message. Like we already said, he's trying to reveal to Gotham the corruption and what everyone does in Gotham, and they abuse their power and what they have. The city is infested with crime, like we know, and the Riddler plans to reveal that to the public eye and get out what he can through his means of what he calls his own justice. So it's more than just this masked criminal doing puzzles and sending out threats. The Riddler in this seems like a looming presence that is stalking over Gotham. He's this huge threat. And it's not only scary, but it is legitimately terrifying. It seems like he's taking out these high officials in Gotham to send his message, and while also starting to have an obsession over Batman. And as we know, the Riddler always has an obsession with Batman. But in this film, this is the first time that Batman is meeting the Riddler, and this is probably the first time that Batman is meeting any of his rogues that are out of his famous villains. I'm really excited to see this because I love the Riddler, and I really love the whole cryptic side of things. I'm really interested in the villains and everything, and basically anything I like. I always love the villains. I always love seeing the antagonistic side of things. So not only am I excited to see Batman and Alfred and Gordon and them, but I'm really excited to see Riddler a lot. And also Penguin, Falcone. But like we said last video, Riddler in this is trying to send a message by any means necessary. He's trying to bring his own idea of justice to the public and to Gotham. One of the reasons why he's so cryptic in this is because he is influenced by the Zodiac Killer, which was a real serial killer that took place that did his events in San Francisco in the 1960s. Which I always found some kind of interest in for some reason. It might be because of the Riddler originally, but now that they're making the Riddler into this very cryptic villain and this actual scary killer in this, that's probably why I find so much interest in it. I love the Riddler, but I even love him more now in this film that he is very cryptic and he has his own code. Like he has a full alphabet of his code. These like symbols is the cipher that he made that Batman's gonna have to solve, which is gonna be really cool. And obviously, like we see in front of us, the Riddler leaves a lot of marks and signs, like actual physical images for Batman. Same in the film. He leaves all these marks and images that Batman's gonna have to go around and find. Could you imagine? This joke's been done before so many times, but it's not even a joke at this point. Like, could you imagine Batman has to find like loads of fucking Riddler trophies to actually finish the movie and find Riddler? They would never. But it would be hilarious if Matt Reeves has like a replica Riddler trophy for it. Alright, well, all jokes aside, I'm really liking how this Riddler looks like he's going to be. And again, they're in this early years of Batman and the Rogues, so this Riddler is named Edward Nashton. I'm not sure if I established that last video, but his name is Edward Nashton and is not yet Edward Enigma, which he will turn into once he's more obsessed with his crimes and his abilities as the Riddler. But I really just love this take on the Riddler that they're doing. He's very cryptic and very mysterious, and I think it adds to his character and definitely fits perfectly for this movie and how they're doing it. And even the actor himself, Paul Dano, has added to that mystery by not showing his face regarding the movie whatsoever. Only until recently he has, where there's the press release and things going on about the movie's release, which I think is pretty cool, but let's get back to it. He has this massive eye over Gotham, watching everything in the shadows and in the light, and it's awesome. I find that really cool. Riddler's design, that was a big thing when it was released, when like we first got the image of the Riddler. I'm pretty sure we first saw Riddler early in the trailer. He has this like military, like extreme weather mask to cover his face, and plastic wrap, or some kind of like clear wrapping around his head, and he's literally covered head to toe in cloth, and basically it's just his suit. So he leaves no DNA, no trace behind, no anything. It's a well-known thing that the Riddler is one of Batman's smartest enemies, so he knows what he's doing when he's committing crimes and overall how he acts. And I already know I'm going to love it, and that it's probably going to be a phenomenal film, but what I'm really hoping for is that there's legitimate, clever things that goes on with the Riddler and Batman that the audience won't catch until after Batman has solved it. Actual things in the film that happen that are legitimately clever and actually need some hard thinking to do to actually understand. By doing this, which I really hope they do, it would strengthen both of the characters of the Batman and the Riddler, because it will really show you, instead of telling you, how professionally they deal with what they do deal with. Of course, it being Batman taking crime head on and doing detective work, and Riddler being the ones to commit those crimes. Alright, well, I've been on Riddler for a good bit, and obviously I'm excited for it, but if it's good, I hope we see more of it in the future. But for now, let's get off the topic of Riddler and move on. Oh yeah, that reminds me of another thing I didn't talk about. Batman's suit. He doesn't glide with the cape, which is a weird choice to do, because everything has Batman with a cape. That's how he glides. That's how he gets around, which is pretty interesting. Again, he's in his second year, so it makes sense that everything's still. He's trying to make ways to everything work better for himself and the Batsuit and such, like the Batmobile. But he uses this thing where the cape goes around him and turns into a wingsuit, that's how he glides, which makes sense, which I do like. I think they could have done the cape, but we'll see how it goes when the movie's out. But next, we're going to talk about Oswald Cobblepot, played by Colin Farrell, the Penguin. I remember reading up on such things, saying that Penguin was not at his full potential. We have the Iceberg Lounge already existing. We already have that established. I'm not sure if it's the full nightclub that is the Iceberg Lounge and everything that it is already. It might be like still starting out or still on its way to becoming as big as it usually is in Batman lore, in the Batman mythos. Like, he's not as big as he could be yet, and they're still going out his character. They actually just said that they're making a Penguin show on HBO Max, which I'm really into. Like, they're building out this world so much, and I love that so much. We're going to see even more Gotham in that. I'm not sure when that's going to come out. And I'm not sure if it takes place after the movie or before. Probably going to be after, if they're going to air it after. But it could be a prequel. I'm not sure. I kind of hope it is after, because the Batman already is established, and Penguin knows he exists after this film. So, Batman is this feared vigilante that he is in this, and all the criminals actually have to watch out for him. And he's going to be mentioned. He's going to be mentioned as this thing where it's going to be, is he real or not? Like, where he's an urban legend. And Penguin knows himself that he is real after the movie, because he interacts with him. Obviously, by the chase scene, he knows he's real and he fears him. Yeah, he looks good. The makeup designers and artists did absolutely fantastic on him. He's like unrecognizable as a Penguin. Look at the Penguin in his chair. He looks like a boss. It looks awesome. He looks like the Penguin. It looks great. But I think he's going to be good in this. Not as much of a threat as Riddler is, obviously, but it looks like he's going to be obviously another villain in this that Batman has to track down and get info off of. And now, since we talked about Penguin, let's talk about another big figure in the Gotham underworld, Carmine Falcone. And if you're going into this not knowing who Carmine Falcone is, he is in this film, and he's played by John Turturro, and he is the biggest, or one of the biggest, crime lords in Gotham City, and he rules the Gotham crime underworld. And in this film, it is already established that Falcone is at his full potential, and he is the crime lord that we're used to. Falcone means business. A friend of mine, he appeared in a video already, a killer that appeared in the Squad's video on Fort. He knows John Turturro. He's seen he's a very Mafia fan himself, a fan of them crime and Mafia movies. And he's seen John Turturro. I trust his word. He said that John Turturro is a perfect casting for this. And he looks really good in the role from set photos and recent things that we've seen of Falcone. He looks like he's going to do good. Looks like he's, like, not just his physical appearance, like design. His design is awesome. It sounds like casting is great. Acting-wise, from what we've seen, he looks pretty cool. It looks like he's going to do good. And it looks like he's going to be, just like Penguin, some big figure in the Gotham, like, in the crime underworld that Batman has to track down and find out info from, as well as being a threat to Batman and Gotham overall. Holy shit! Holy shit! Oh my god! All right, all right, all right. Before we move on from Falcone, let's talk about this. I open my socials, and I see a clip of Bruce Wayne and Falcone that I had not seen yet, and it could not be a better time of seeing this clip than recording right now after talking about Falcone. All right, so it's Bruce Wayne talking to Falcone, and it is. By the way, they both look great in their roles as the characters. They both look great and they act amazingly. But let's talk about it. It looks like it's taking place outside of some kind of big building. Actually, no. It is. I'm most likely sure it takes place outside of the funeral scene, because from set photos that we've seen of Falcone and Selena Kyle, which I think is in the background of this clip, and Cobblepot, Penguin, they're all here. This has to be the funeral scene. But it starts off with Falcone talking to Bruce, going up to him face to face, talking about how this big event happened in Gotham, and it pulled out the big Bruce Wayne out of this, into the city, into the public. That's more reclusive than him. We know Bruce is a recluse. He doesn't show his face much, and he doesn't show his face to the public at all, really. And Bruce responds to him about how he thought he never leaves the shoreline, probably his hiding spot. He says, "Aren't you afraid someone will take a shot at you?" And Falcone responds with, "Why? 'Cause your father ain't around?" Oh, and they're basically just poking shots at each other. They both know what's going on. Falcone turns to Oswald Cobblepot, Penguin, that's right next to him, turns his head and talks to Oz, and he says, "This is Bruce Wayne." And Oz responds with, "Oh, wow, that's Bruce Wayne. Ain't that right?" Whatever he says. And Falcone, this is comic accuracy at its finest right here. This is so beautiful. And Falcone turns to Oz, or whatever, and turns back to Bruce. And he says, "His father saved my life. I got shot in the chest, right here." Obviously points to his chest. "I couldn't go to no hospital, so we showed up on his doorstep. Operated right on the dining table. Kid here, him, he saw the whole thing, up on the stairs, looking down. I remember your face. You don't think that meant something that he did back then?" And then Bruce says that he means he took the Hippocratic Oath. Which is, oh my god. They're taking shots at each other here and there. And obviously, Bruce hasn't shown his face much. Falcone has been hiding out. It's known that if anyone really delves deep into Gotham, they can find out that Falcone, if it's not obvious, they know that Falcone is this huge, massive crime lord in Gotham. That is comic accuracy in its finest. Not only them taking shots at each other, but Falcone getting shot and having to go to the Wayne's doorstep, and then, Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne, being the doctor that he is, saves Falcone's life on the dining table while Bruce is on the stairs looking down at them while he was a kid, is straight out of the panels. That is straight off paper. Now that we're done with the clip at Falcone, let's move on to the number one supporter of Batman and Bruce himself. Talk about the one and only lobster servant gentleman that there is, Alfred Pennyworth. Alfred in this is looking good. His design is inspired. Well, no, he is inspired by Earth 1, which the design, the physical design, looks great. It's right out of it, and he's played by Andy Serkis in this. And in this, Alfred does not seem like he's, even though I said he is, but in this film, he does not look like he's the best supportive of Batman. Obviously, he is supporting them and he's going to help him out the best way he can. But in this, he is hesitant of Bruce being Batman. He is hesitant of Bruce going out there and doing what he does. He knows that Bruce is never going to stop this. He knows that Bruce is having, if he doesn't already, he's going to grow an obsession with this crusade that he has of Batman. This clip actually, that I'll put on the screen right now, of screenshots of, is actually Bruce talking to Batman in what looks like the Batcave, about how he got these officials from Wayne Enterprises coming to what I think is Wayne Tower, because that is where the Batcave is in this. That's another thing I have to talk about, the Batcave. But he's coming to Wayne Tower, which would make sort of sense. I know Wayne Tower isn't Wayne Manor, which is normally where the Batcave is. But Alfred in this clip, he tells Bruce that he's got these officials from Wayne Enterprises to come to him. And why, this and that. And Alfred physically angry at him because he tells Bruce that because he can't get Bruce to go anywhere else. He can't get Bruce to do anything else besides where he's at already, the Batcave and this mission that he has of being Batman, which I think is awesome chemistry. Their relationship is going to be very interesting in this because obviously Bruce and Alfred are basically family. Obviously, it seems like he wants to help him, but Bruce is becoming the Batman every time he's able to. It seems like whenever he can, any free time he gets, not even free time because he's not even worried about the Wayne Enterprises that it is. He's not worried about the fortune that he has. Looks like he's worried about Batman full time. And Alfred is hesitant. Alfred is worried about Bruce in this. He's worried that he's going to be harmed even more mentally and emotionally and physically. Alfred is worried for Bruce's sake in this. And Bruce doesn't, I don't think Bruce realizes it, or if he does, he doesn't really worry about it much because he thinks what he's doing as Batman is the right cause all the time. And after the clip ends with Bruce telling Alfred that that people don't need to come and he doesn't need to worry about that, Alfred tells him directly, like, you don't need to, like, you're not worrying about your family's legacy. So, like, your family's legacy doesn't really matter to Bruce. And Bruce tells him straight up that this is my family's legacy. That Batman and Bruce's way of bettering the city is his family's legacy. Which I guess he's right and wrong, I guess. Because Alfred's talking about, how the Waynes did so much for Gotham. And what good they did because of their fortunes and, what they had. They made it work and made Gotham a better place. And Bruce doing his own, not necessarily through the same method, but he is bettering the city. And Bruce tells him that it is his family's legacy, regardless of how he's doing it. And before we get off of the topic of Alfred Pennyworth, I'm going to talk about his backstory a little bit, because all these characters have some story to go along with the film and going into the film, which, PS side note, I love a lot because it helps with world building and really involves the characters a lot more and grows them out. Alright, well, let's get back to what I was saying. Almost every iteration of Alfred, if not every one of them, has some kind of backstory where there was events that happened before he was the butler of the billionaire family of the Waynes. And going into this film, Alfred, before being the butler of the Batman in this, was part of the Special Forces unit of the British Army. So, fun fact, there you go. Which actually is pretty cool, because honestly, we might get an Alfred fight scene. Who knows at this point, to be honest. Could you imagine? But actually, this means he could help Bruce, physically, combat-wise, and medically. And yes, that always happens, that Alfred is the one to help Bruce all the time, if Bruce doesn't help himself. With everything, really. But Alfred does have expertise in this, and they're probably going to shine light on that and his background, so just expect to see this. But also, imagine we see this. Alright. Next, we're going to head over to the police station to talk about our dear old friend, James Gordon. As we stand atop the building of the GCPD, the Gotham City Police Department, the first things first that we know of Gordon is that he is Lieutenant James Gordon in this. He is not yet a commissioner. The commissioner is Pete Savage in this, and we actually know that he is targeted by the Riddler, and we'll see how that pans out when the movie's out. And of course, Jeffrey looks great in the role, and he has a killer mustache. But let's move on. Gordon in this is the Gordon we're used to. He's a good man, and he just wants to make the city a better place for him, his family, and the citizens and the city itself. And as well as what Batman is trying to do. Make Gotham a better place and rid it of crime. Even though maybe their methods are not exactly the same, they both trust each other enough to plan out what they're going to do and have, give each other information and whatnot. In this, the relationship between Gordon and Batman is already established, or maybe we'll see it form in this film, but it looks like it's already established. It looks like that they're already talking to each other. The bat signal is already into a thing. It's already made into a thing in the film. And Batman is in the GCPD. In the screenshots and that clip, like I talked about last video, where they're talking about the cop who moonlights as a cop, but worked for the Penguin. We've talked about that already. But he's in the GCPD, which doesn't happen often, unless he's like trusted a lot and he's been Batman for a while. But he is in his second year, so he has to be. So him and Gordon have to trust each other a lot for that to happen. Or maybe Gordon is in higher ranks in the GCPD, so he's letting Batman come in to the building. But I'm not sure. We'll see when the movie's released, obviously. But it seems like their trustworthy relationship is already established in this. The early years, Batman is this urban legend, and people don't know if he really exists or not. He's looked at as a myth. And even as he goes on and on, some people still don't believe in him. That is real. Because, Batman is in the shadows the entire time. He hides in the shadows. He is the shadows. And people think he's a myth. He's an urban legend that goes around Gotham. But in this, he shows himself in front of like a plenty of people. He makes his existence well known. Which also goes with his character. Because, he wants criminals to know he exists. He wants to strike fear. Alright, well, we talked about the Batman in the last video, as well as the plot and the storyline of the movie. And then so far we talked about the Batmobile and the characters. And now let's move on to Gotham City, as well as the Batcave and foundations of what will be Gotham City in this film. Where do I even start? This Gotham City is probably going to be the best Gotham City that we've ever seen. Of course, minus the animated series and comic books itself. Live action wise, this is the perfect adaptation. Gotham City in this is mysterious. It's mythical. It's gothic. It has these old architecture and buildings. It has this mythical feel of it, which is very important. That is Gotham City. That is what Gotham City is, and it's perfect. Gotham City is this film. In this film, it's not dead. It's not dry. It's not like lifeless. It's not gray in the terms of how the city feels, but what it looks like, it is. If that even makes sense. Gotham City in this movie, and what is going to be a trilogy, hopefully, is mythical. It is gothic. It is mysterious. It is dark. And it is gritty. And that is what Gotham City is. And I think that is perfect. There could not be anything better than what this Gotham City is going to be. From the trailers and clips and everything, for the concept art, promotional media, everything that we've seen, this Gotham City looks like it's going to be the best live-action adaptation that is possible that we can get. And I can't wait for it. And now the only thing left to talk about is the Batcave, which is not under Wayne Manor like it usually is in all of other Batman mythos and lore, but it is under Wayne Tower in an abandoned subway terminal called Wayne Terminus. Again, he's in his second year, so it makes sense that he's still trying to find how to do things as Batman, and he's still improving everything as he goes along. And since he is in his early years, he doesn't need a fully established Batcave, and he doesn't need to call it the Batcave just yet. I like it. I really like how they're doing it so far, and I do hope to see that official Batcave sooner or later in this trilogy. But so far, it looks pretty good. Obviously, that's where Bruce is going to stay most of his time, unless he's donning the cowl out on the streets. But for what we've seen, it does look good, and I'm really excited for the movie. And I think that ends it there. The video's getting long anyway, so I'm going to try to end it now. But if you haven't seen the first video of me talking about the film, I recommend you go watch it. I don't know why you'd be watching this one after. But anyway, you can do whatever you want. Regardless of which you watch that one first, or this one first, or watched any of my videos at all, I appreciate the support greatly, and thank you so much. The common YouTube stuff, like comment, subscribe, etc. The Batman comes out March 4th. Very close, yet so far away. And I will be back talking about it if you're interested in me talking about the film. But that's all, folks. Thank you for watching, and I bid you all farewell.